The Orange Blossom Classic is still months away, but that hasn't stopped the head coaches of FAMU and Howard from leaning into the two biggest storylines to hype up this matchup. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play more music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current site expert at Who Dat Dish and contributing writer at USA Today Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Every day as we're wrapping up with a big time two-part to close out today's episode. FAMU and Bethune-Cookman met up in the SWAC tournament final for baseball, and they did not disappoint. And in that game, Andre Martinez has etched his name in stone forever in Bethune-Cookman history. It's Florida all day, baby. It's Florida all day, and we kick it off with the return of Florida A&M to the Orange Blossom Classic. I know that this game is still months away. I'll be honest. I'm excited about it. It's one of the games that I have circled on the schedule. I am excited about Howard versus FAMU in the Orange Blossom Classic. Despite it being months away, you're going on a miniature press tour for it, and both head coaches have hyped up the two biggest storylines in this game. In case you're curious, off rip, the two biggest storylines to me are the return of FAMU to the OBC, and then also FAMU versus Howard for the first time since the 2023 Celebration Bowl. Those are the two biggest storylines, and both coaches have leaned into both of them. I'm going to talk about the return to the Orange Blossom Classic first, because that's the one that I'm actually interested in, and I'll explain what the difference is as we progress. But head coach James Colsey, said, stepping back on this field feels like coming home. It's a chance to honor the legends who've paved the way. It allows us to write our own chapter in the story of Black college football. It felt odd not opening up here last year. It didn't feel right, and now we're excited to be back here to open the season with the Orange Blossom Classic. I 100% agree with that. I couldn't agree with it more. It felt odd to not have them there. Was I happy with what the OBC did? Oh, yeah. I love the Alabama State versus North Carolina Central conversation. I absolutely loved I love that game. I love the conversation leading up to the game. I love the actual product on the field. The talking points that came from it were good. That was a quality matchup. That being said, it's a FAMU game. This is FAMU's classic, and them not being present in it didn't feel right, no matter how much of a quality product that we had. But so I agree with Cozy, and I can't speak from the FAMU point of view. I didn't necessarily feel weird about seeing FAMU start their season somewhere else. I just felt weird about FAMU not being involved in the OBC. That's just how I felt, right? But it's funny because this event was gone for years. For years, you didn't have the Orange Blossom Classic. And I can't speak to how it felt because I wasn't around, man. Like when I stepped into college, this was long gone. This was not a thing that was around for my teenage to collegiate years. And though it's only been back for 4 seasons, 3 with FAMU, and though it's only been back for less than a handful of years, it does feel like a staple once again. I'm going to say that. I don't know how it felt in the 90s and the 80s and everything, but in the 2000s and the 2020s, this feels like a staple of black college football, specifically with Florida A&M. And for the Rattlers to not be in this game, to me, felt like a missed opportunity. And it's something that had never happened before then. And I hope that it doesn't happen again. This is FAMU's game, like I said. But Larry Scott also leaned into it to a certain degree. Also, I'm glad they got whatever differences they had and put those aside. But Larry Scott also leaned into this. He said, these were the first two teams to play in this game in 1933. Howard versus FAMU in Miami, Florida. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And there's only so much that Howard could really talk about this, just to be honest. This is not a deep dive on Larry Scott's comments. There's only so much that he could say. But it is interesting to me that FAMU's returning, in the first game of their return is against the first team that they ever played in the event. I know that it became a Jackson State versus FAMU game over the last 3 seasons before 2024. But there is a long history that dates back with tens of schools. That sounds weird. Multiple schools. I was going to, say hundreds. I was going to say tens of schools. That don't sound right. But it's been a lot of schools that played this game, but only one pair of teams have been in the first one. Now to the storyline that people may be a little bit more interested in, and that is the idea of FAMU versus Howard for the first time since the 2023 Celebration Bowl. And I don't know how many people are interested in it right now, but I do believe when the Orange Blossom Classic rolls around, you'll begin to see more and more people call back to it. But James Colsey, he didn't waste any time talking about the Celebration Bowl. He says, if anyone forgot, it was 30-26 FAMU. And trust me, Larry Scott didn't forget. He said this: we left some luggage in Atlanta, and American Airlines brought it to Miami, so we're here to pick it up. Obviously, Celebration Bowl played in Atlanta. This game's going to be played in Miami, so I get what he's doing there. The reason I'm not overly excited about this matchup, and to be clear, this will probably be our game of the week. And our game of the week features 3 matchups, 2 storylines, and a key to victory. And these two very well could be our lead storylines. I'm just going to be very clear. These will probably be our 2 storylines that we talk about. Maybe change one out because I've already done it, or because I'm doing it today. But anyway, as far as this goes, there's revenge from Larry Scott, but Willie Simmons isn't there. Like Jeremy Musa isn't there. A lot of this is just so. The reason I can't lean too heavily into the conversation about a Celebration Bowl rematch is because there's so many key pieces that aren't there anymore. Quarterback on the side of FAMU and Howard. A lot of key defenders on Howard and FAMU. You got a different coach at FAMU. Yes, Larry Scott is there, and he probably has baggage. And here's the thing. I remember when that game happened, there was fingers being pointed at Scott that this essentially slipped out of their hands, that they should have won this game, and they allowed FAMU to come and win. So I can understand why it does feel like I got to get my get back. I got to get this opportunity for revenge that is, I guess, a year and a half at that point. Will be about a year and a half into the making. I could see why he would feel that way, but I'm not necessarily super excited about it. I'm just not. It doesn't feel like it's a real thing. It's a storyline. It's something I'm slightly intrigued in because Colsey was there. He obviously has bragging rights about it. Going to throw out the score. Larry Scott was there. Whatever the opposite of bragging rights are, he has that. He mentions the baggage and the luggage that was there. So this probably is kind of a monkey he wants to get off his back, but it just ain't the same. It just ain't the same, man. It's kind of like when South Carolina State and Jackson State faced off in the SWAC MEAC Challenge. Deion Sanders had left. Shedeur Sanders had left. Yes, Travis Hunter had left, but he wasn't a part of that South Carolina State game. Buddy Pugh was still there, but it was like it's just a different team. And I think TC Taylor might have downplayed that at the time. And I kind of feel that way. It doesn't necessarily feel like you're really getting revenge on a team that beat you. You already have to deal with a lot of upheaval in college. But then when you start losing coaches and critical players in the way that FAMU and Howard have played, this is more so for the fans. The fans can sit here and say, oh, yeah, we're going to get you back. Or but I don't necessarily look at it that way. Maybe that's just me. Am I being a party pooper? Let me know. Let me know if I'm being a party pooper. But anyway, those are the two biggest storylines, and both Coach Scott and Coach Cozy applied or addressed those things. Now, as he pushed forward, Andre Martinez is going to live forever. And not just because he's a great player, but because he had a monumental moment to win the first Bethune-Cookman baseball championship in a while. Let's break all of that down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. You know, sometimes you start moving. Sometimes you start getting to birthday season. Maybe you got an anniversary roll around and you just have a bunch of things that you're planning. You have a bunch of things that you have to pay for, and you begin to lose track of your money. And that's because you're not using Monarch money. If you were using Monarch money, then you would have the opportunity and the ability to easily track multiple accounts, easily track your spending. It's not just a budgeting app. I know I don't want to boil it down to that. It's a financial command center all within the palm of your hand through your cellular device. Or maybe you want to go on your laptop to monarchmoney.com. That is acceptable too. But Monarch Money is here to allow you to build your wealth, not just manage your money. We want to see you excel. So let's say you even have joint accounts with you and your partner. You can do that as well easily. It's all about ease, ease, ease. That's why if I were you, I take control of my finances with Monarch Money using the code locked on college at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code locked on college for half off your first year. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day for your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On College Football for the biggest stories leading into the college football season. We're talking more about football, and I want you to go ahead and check them out too. That's all that they're talking about. But Andre Martinez has immortalized himself forever in Bethune-Cookman baseball history because of the big time moment that he had to bring a championship to Bethune-Cookman. Excuse me. The cliche of big time player make big time plays and in big time situation, like that's a cliche. You know, everybody says it. You know, it's almost a way to boast people up. I haven't heard it in a long time though, but the cliche of big time players make big time plays in big time situations is something that people have been saying for years and will probably continue to say for years to come. But it's not just a cliche when you actually see the big time player make big time plays in a big time situation. And by doing that, Andre Martinez has etched his name in stone in Bethune-Cookman history as the man who had a walk-off home run against Florida A&M to bring Bethune-Cookman their first ever SWAC baseball title. That is who Andre Martinez will be known as today. That's who will be known as tomorrow. And that's who he will be known as for a very long time. And I don't want to say that dismissively. This moment is just that monumental. This moment is just that monumental because seasons do fade, right? Like he had a very good year. He had a very good year. If you're talking about Andre Martinez, he was the co-hitter of the year, right next to Juan Cruz, Alabama State. But here's the thing. You probably couldn't tell me who his co-hitter of the year was. You might not even been able to tell me that he was co-hitter of the year, but let's say that you could because Bethune-Cookman fans may be watching. I'm certain that they know what kind of accolade that their top players get. You probably couldn't have told me that Juan Cruz was the other co-hitter of the year. And that's not disrespect to Juan Cruz. He's a dog. I remember him at the Swingman Classic just last year. That's no disrespect to Juan Cruz. It's just to say those aren't the things that we are going to remember forever. But we will remember this play, just like I'll remember the call. Shout out to Cat Eye Network. Oh, my God. I couldn't get the video of the game. And I just tried to maybe I missed it. So I came back super late and I happened to catch it right before the call. And it's funny because it was a huge tonal shift when it came to before the home run that Andre Martinez had and then after the home run that he had. because you hear them on there, they're almost previewing the eulogy for Bethune-Cookman. This may be the last batter of the season. You start talking about how great of a year they had. Let me let you in on something. Maybe you don't know, maybe you don't pay attention to people. When people begin to start recapping seasons, they think their year is over. No one has ever recapped their season after winning in the wild card game if they thought they were going to make it to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl. Right? Like you've never seen a team go, let's say, what's a team who's probably never gone 15-1? Jacksonville's probably never gone 15-1. I'm just throwing that out there. The Jacksonville Jaguars have probably never gone 15-1. And if they did, let's see. But anyway, if the Jaguars did go 15-1 and they was like, oh yeah, we're a great team, we believe that we have a chance to really compete. Do you think that after the wild card game, they say, man, Jacksonville, or after the divisional game, they say, Jacksonville's had the best season of their year so far, or we've had the best season of our franchise thus far? Have they ever gone 15-1? Okay, good. No, they have gone 14-2. So they were close. 99. That was probably Fred Taylor. Had to be right. Oh, Fred Taylor wasn't even there the year? Oh, he wasn't at least leading the league. This isn't important. But the point is, if Jacksonville goes 15-1 and they beat whoever in the divisional playoff game and they're getting ready for the AFC Championship, do you think that the fans are going to walk around and be like, man, this is the best season that we've had? No, because you're expecting even more. You start saying that when you see the end is near. That's what you start saying when you're down 21 with 2 minutes left. Well, it was a great season. You start recapping things when they're over, not when they got another step to go. So when the Cat Eye Network was recapping the Bethune-Cookman season, talking about how great it was, I could tell they felt like it was over. I could tell he was in the booth feeling like, this is it. And then the hit happens. And he has an amazing call. Drop some Spanish in there. He's yelling. Phenomenal call. If you haven't checked it out, please go check out the Cat Eye Network. They have their streams up there. And I didn't stay on for after, so I don't know. But it was about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. 4 hours and 20 minutes, excuse me. It's about 4 hours and 20 minutes into the stream. But it's the last play. You're going to see him with his arms up yelling. So, you'll see it, you'll see it. It was a phenomenal call. But anyway, when I say that great players are remembered, good seasons can be. Moments will be, right? Because when we talk about great players, they're often defined by their moments. No disrespect to the player who throws for 5,000 yards, but if it results in a choking in the playoffs, we don't care about that season, especially if you didn't break a record. No one cares about the guy who can shoot the lights out, but when the last 2 minutes are going, all he knows is the rim. No one cares about those players. We care about the guy who is big time in the regular season and he's big time in the postseason. And if we're talking about moments, there is not a moment bigger than this. Andre Martinez steps up to the plate. They have 2 outs. They're down 1. There's a runner on second and a runner on first. Yeah, you could get a single. Maybe you try to get on base. Now the bases are loaded. If you're lucky, you could get a double, get 1 RBI. Now the game is tied. Martinez wasn't going for none of that. Martinez knocked it over the fence right through center field, and he said, we taking this thing home. There are no bigger moments than the one that he faced. Because as great as Bethune-Cookman was in 2025, their season was an out away from going down the drain. Because seasons fade. People forget things like that. Yeah, that was a good season, but when I go look at the all-time champions, it doesn't tell me who was first place in the regular season. It doesn't do that. Seasons fade. Moments don't. A couple of months from now, you probably won't be able to tell me who the SWAC co-hitters of the year are. But a couple of months, a couple of years from now, you will be able to remember Andre Martinez with 2 outs at the plate, knocking it right through center field over the fence and taking Bethune-Cookman to their first SWAC baseball title ever. You'll remember that. And that's why Andre Martinez will forever be remembered and etched in stone in Bethune-Cookman baseball history. Now, as we push forward, the game in general didn't disappoint. It was a really good game. It was a really good game beyond just that moment. So let's break that all down as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. This was a big moment for Martinez and Bethune-Cookman, but let's not get it twisted. The game in general was a phenomenal game, especially towards the back half. We're going to wrap up today's episode by looking at it, but we discussed how Florida had ran SWAC baseball in 2025. Bethune-Cookman was the first place team in the seedings. FAMU was the second place team in the seedings. And because of that, they ended up being on opposite side of the bracket when it came to the SWAC tournament. And when it came to the SWAC tournament, I was sitting here waiting for the chance to see them. You also had the conversation of they've lost to some teams. For example, Bethune-Cookman had lost to Alabama, or excuse me, they had lost to Texas Southern. I don't think they had lost to Alabama State. FAMU had lost to Grambling. Oh, no, they had lost to Jackson State. I don't know. The point is, they had lost some games throughout the season, but they had been the big dogs. They had been the guys who were running things. And outside of UAPB, no one had beat Bethune-Cookman in a season series. Outside of Bethune-Cookman, nobody had beat FAMU in a season series. Now, it is a double elimination, so you will have to see teams twice in many instances. For FAMU, that happened. They end up dropping to Grambling. They played Grambling in the second round, beat them. Grambling made their way back up through the loser bracket, came up to FAMU, beat them. And now they have a head-to-head one time, FAMU versus Grambling, and FAMU came out victorious to make their way to the championship game. Bethune-Cookman had some close games, but they won all 3 of theirs. So they went Texas Southern, Alabama State, and then Alabama State again. And the second Alabama State game actually went into 10 innings. So it was a really good game that they had, but they didn't have to sit here and play the game before or the day before the tournament, or day before the tournament final, I should say, excuse me. But Bethune-Cookman had a season series and Bethune-Cookman swept it. So now I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what are we going to get if they see each other in the finals? And they did see each other, and we got an absolute heater. We got a game that from start to finish is one that you are going to want to watch again. And for me, it really began to kick up in the 6th inning because Bethune-Cookman did open up the scoring with 3 runs in the 3rd, but then it was dry. Nobody had scored up to that point. And then FAMU didn't get on the board until the 6th inning. And in the 6th inning, they knocked in 3 runs of their own. So now we tied up. At the end of the 6th inning, it's 3-3. And we're pushing in from there to the 7th. And that's when FAMU just in 3 in the 6th inning. They come back, they get 4 in the 7th inning. They come back, they get 2 in the 8th inning. And they're rattling them off. At this point, you've now gone from having 0 runs to having 9 runs over the course of just 3 innings. 6, 7, and 8, right? But I guess that 7 inning 7 unanswered runs that FAMU had, that ignited a little bit of a fire inside of Bethune-Cookman, because you have Bethune-Cookman, they go in, they drop 3 in the 7th inning. So it goes, I'm going to go top, bottom, right? FAMU, Bethune-Cookman. It goes 3-0, 4-3, 2-2. So now that's how you going. And FAMU, they on fire. Bethune-Cookman, they're starting to build up a little bit of steam as well. You go into the 9th inning. And at this point, I don't think you can allow FAMU to score. They're up 1 is 9-8. So you're up 1 right there. You can't really allow another run to get on the board because you don't want to bank on having to get multiple runs. You just don't. Maybe you feel confident that you can get 1 run, you get a runner in scoring position, something, right? Like you maybe feel good about that. But having to get multiple runs in the last inning, that's risky. Bethune-Cookman rises to the occasion. 3 batters, 3 outs, nobody gets on base. And now it's the bottom of the 9th. And it's you. It's all you. You done protected the top of the 8th or the top of the 9th. Now in the bottom is attack mode. And in attack mode, you end up getting 2 outs. You do get 2 players, two players on base, though. but it didn't matter. Martinez came and knocked that over the fence. You know, we talk about that last moment, but if Martinez just would have got on base, then you would have had Jorge Rodriguez, who just had a 2-run homer. So it's really just a situation of pick your poison. You couldn't have allowed him to get on base. You couldn't have just been like, all right, we're gonna walk Martinez, because now the bases are loaded. Now the bases are loaded. You could have played the game with just feeling like, all right, I'm gonna trust my outfield, I'm gonna trust my fielding and whatnot. But all in all, you kind of had to take a chance at some point. You couldn't walk both Martinez and Rodriguez. So they decided to not walk Martinez and just hope that they could, either strike him out, or you had your best pitcher out there, strike him out, or try to, just get out, just get in the field. So on tomorrow, actually, won't be back tomorrow. Thank you for going on this ride with me earlier than expected. I meant to tell you that earlier, but I appreciate you guys. I'm going to have a good Memorial Day, and I hope that you do as well. And I hope you have a safe and responsible one. I'm not going to do too much, but we will be responsible on my side, and I hope that you do as well. We won't be back tomorrow. We'll be back on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens in the meantime for that. Probably talk a little bit of track and field, and then also who baseball is going to go against from the MEAC and the SWAC. So, sorry, let me say this. I did not mention this was big time for me, for Bethune-Cookman, because it broke a drought. And for many people, 5-6 years, not really too much of a drought. But you look at Bethune-Cookman, they dominated the MEAC from the turn of the century until 2019 when they left. That was their last season playing baseball in the MEAC. They won 15 of the 20 baseball titles. So this is big. This is their first one here. They've been in the SWAC for a couple of seasons. And the last time they got close, they actually fell to FAMU. So this is a big time moment. I just want to mention that because I almost forgot it. But anyway, when we come back on Wednesday, we'll probably talk a little bit of track and field, talk about who baseball is facing. Maybe we'll talk about, I don't know what else. It's Wednesday. I don't want to skip a day. But anyway, that's what we have on the docket leading up. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.